Hi, welcome to show number 4, Focus on Framingham. I'm your host, Mike Cunningham. Let's get into the news here. Our first story here is from Downtown Framingham, Inc. And on April 5th, they announced that, I'll just read what they wrote here. Exciting news, we're commissioning a mural at 199 Concord Street. We're indebted to Richard Cohen at CGI Management Incorporated for his enthusiastic interest in placing public art on his property. Congratulations to Franklin Marvel, an artistic genius from Venezuela who has provided support to the Miami Heat, City of Boston, City of Newton, Mass., and now our great city. Thanks to the Downtown Framingham Inc. Public Design Subcommittee consisting of Board Directors Ellen Sturgis from Amazing Things, Amy Wilder from Saxonville Studios, and Ann O'Connell from the Framingham Public Library, and Officer Val Kishnell, Framingham Police Department. Thank you also to the city's building commissioner, Mike Tassino, who gave the mural 2 thumbs up. Most of all, thank you to our Senator Karen Spilka for ensuring our nonprofit could make this project happen. We have had over 50 submissions due to Metro West Art All-Pair Outreach, so thank you to everyone who quickly responded to our call for public art. And for more information, you can go to www.downtownframingham.org, our next story is about, there's going to be several stories about this here. This is actually not from Framingham, but this was reported by WCVB. Police officers say mice responsible for disappearance of 1,200 pounds of marijuana. 8 police officers in Argentina have been fired after blaming mice for the disappearance of 1,200 pounds of marijuana. Officers in Pioneer argued the drugs were eaten by mice in a warehouse for impounded drugs. According to The Guardian, more than 13,200 pounds of marijuana were registered to the warehouse 2 years ago, until the new police commissioner noticed the total was more than half a ton short. Forensics experts said it was unlikely that even a large number of mice could have consumed that much marijuana. A spokesperson for the judge said Buenos Aires University experts have explained that mice wouldn't mistake the drugs for food, and that if a large group of mice had eaten it, a lot of corpses would have been found in the warehouse. A judge will try to determine whether the marijuana went missing because of negligence in the hearing next month. Bertuccis Files for bankruptcy protection. I was a little surprised by this because I thought that they were among one of the better chains in the area. I'm just going to pull up the article here. This is also from WCVB. They entitled it Massachusetts-based Bertuccis Files for Bankruptcy and Closing Restaurants. Northborough, Massachusetts-based Bertuccis, which opens its first restaurant in the early 1980s in Somerville's Davis Square, has filed for bankruptcy and intends to reject dozens of leases, court documents said on Monday. And this was back on April 16th. The Italian restaurant chain, which with locations from New England to Virginia, said it had reached a tentative deal to sell its assets to Right Lane Doe Acquisitions, that's a fun name, LLC, which expects to continue the business. Since 2011, Bertuccis has experienced a year-over-year decline in sales and revenue, bankruptcy documents filed by the company said. Northborough-based Bertucci said that it had worked with a real estate company and has identified 29 unprofitable leases that it intends to reject immediately, and a review of other store leases is continuing, the court document said. So Bertucci said Monday it closed 15 locations, leaving 59 remaining, including the one here in Framingham, from what I understand. Mass Live reported the company had closed restaurants Monday in Amherst, West Springfield, Longmeadow, Randolph, Taunton, and Wayland. I didn't know there was one in Wayland. Well, maybe that's why they went out of business. Just hours after filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The chain's location in Boston's Kenmore Square in Boston shut down last year after 15 years in business, and locations in Faneuil Hall and another in Wellesley shut down. Bertucci said the company was updating its list of locations on its website and would you'd think that they'd be on top of that, and would release a full list of closings later this week. Bertucci says 969 full-time employees and 3,245 part-time employees. Most stores located at stores across the region. The latest move comes as Bertucci's fights for survival. Last year, Bertucci's chief executive officer, Brian Wright, said that the Northborough-based restaurant was determined not to let the other restaurants muscle out Bertucci's, but it looks like they weren't able to do that. So, again, that story from WCVB. Let's see. Framingham Mayor is one of 3 honorees as Women of the Year in Emerge Mass. This is from Framingham Source, reported on this earlier this week on April 17th. Framingham Emerge, Massachusetts announced its 3 Women of the Year this morning, and among the honorees is the City of Framingham Mayor Yvonne Spicer. The other 2 honorees are Boston City Council President Andrea Campbell and Boston City Councilor Lydia Edwards. All 3 of these women dared to run and won in tough races, said Rayanne Olson, Emerge Massachusetts Executive Director. The event is held Wednesday, June 26th from 6 to 8, and tickets start at $100. So that's kind of nice. Let's see. It's a new restaurant opening here in Framingham. This is from the Metro West Daily News. Hopefully I say this correctly. La Pupusa Loca Grill opens on Waverly Street in Framingham. And after getting their start in Ashland, the husband and wife duo are bringing the taste of Salvadorian cuisine to the city. Maria and Francisco Cortez celebrated the grand opening of Saturday of La Pupusa Loca Grill, located at 144 Waverly Street. The eatery occupies a small storefront south of the railroad tracks, which has been home to a succession of establishments, including Bill's Grill and El Maya Restaurant. I think I ate there once. With a menu that includes both Salvadorian and Mexican food, Maria Cortez says she hopes the spot will be popular with customers from many different backgrounds. We have a lot of Latin American people in our town. I'm sure that this will do very well, and hopefully I'll get to try it out in a few weeks. Jim Pillsbury, a longtime friend of mine, wrote an op-ed to Framingham Source. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's, I think, worth reading. If you probably just Google Framingham Source and marijuana memorandum needed, you'll probably find it. So this is an op-ed, and Jim starts with, for the record, the city of Framingham is not required to do anything regarding the cannabis industry coming to Framingham, other than a host agreement the mayor must make with anyone wanting to open a retail shop. The regulations have been thoroughly reviewed by experts in the field, including law enforcement and the Department of Public Health. A handful of hardliners, uninformed and out of touch with the residents who voted for them, are taking it upon themselves to stop, delay, restrict, or ban the potentially billion-dollar industry from coming to Framingham. This Tuesday, our newly elected city council will take a vote to impose a memorandum until December 31st on all marijuana-related businesses coming to Framingham. This move is totally against what residents voted for, and me personally, I agree with this, and gives time to various boards, planning, zoning, and Board of Health, along with the police, fire, and school departments to craft regulations over and above the state regulations already in place. Writing for the majority, this is Jim saying, some brief history, and then he goes on to talk about how he was asked by a sitting city councilor why I was so adamant about pot and what prompted that. My answer was more than 30 years ago. I was busted and pled no contest to a growing pot in my Seminole Avenue apartment. My punishment was a fine probation. The amount and size of the plants were negligible. It was a misdemeanor. I remember the cops telling me if I didn't agree with the laws, change them. That event shook me to the core and has sent me on a journey that has lasted 30 plus years. I knew then I had to act and set off to find a way. As fate would have it, a few other people around the state have suffered the same fate, and we're vocal about making marijuana and hemp legal again. So I encourage you to read the rest of this. Again, it's entitled "No Marijuana Moratorium Needed," and you can probably Google that. And that's by Jim Pillsbury, who's a longtime friend of mine. I've been doing shows with him since 2004. And speaking of that, you can also check out his show that he's been doing with the League of Women's Voters. It's on Sundays at 7 p.m. on Access Framingham, which is Channel 3 RCN, Channel 9 Comcast, and Channel 43 Verizon. Speaking of public access, there's been a number of developments concerning the distribution quality of the signal and also the availability of the electronic program guide for what are called PEG stations. They're the public, educational, and government. So to say that quickly, I'll be saying PEG for now on. There was a hearing here in Framingham on Wednesday the 18th that I attended, and I plan to bring the footage of me speaking to that after the break, because I'm still converting it and I had a little trouble with it. But there's state legislation currently to force this statewide. Cable television, the access channels typically suffer the lowest form of quality in terms of their signals, just because the cable companies do as little as they can to support and meet the requirements set usually in the cable license with the town or city. It's better than it's ever been. There was a time here in Framingham where the government and the public channel shared the same channel, and half the week it was one and half the week it was the other. So things have come a long way. But now we're in the age of high-def television, and in the age of such a sea of channels and going through a program guide on your screen, you'll notice that the channels aren't labeled and there's no program information. So that's the big problem that most stations across the nation are facing. And I'm so glad to see that our state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has stepped in and has legislation in progress for this. I don't know what's going to happen to it. But after the break, I'll play my what I said at the cable hearing this last week. Couple other news items here. The Framingham DPW, I believe, is to redesign the Knobscott Shopping Center intersection. And I wish I could put this on the screen for you. Just give me a second here. I'll put that up here for you in 1 second. Just bear with me for a second. I watch a lot of Walter Cronkite footage from the 1960s and 70s, and he had the style of being able to pause while he got the information correct from his sources, which I always thought was neat. So that's kind of what I'm doing here now. So put that up here. There's the map from the news article here. This is from this was published in Wicked Local. Framingham includes content from the Framingham tab. It's probably where this came from. Improvements are on the way for a busy north side intersection where the city is preparing for future redevelopment. The Department of Public Works is preparing to rebuild the intersection of Edgell Road, Edmonds Road, and Water Street in Knobscott. The city plans to widen the road and improve conditions for pedestrians, cyclists, laying the groundwork for the intersection to better handle traffic in the future. And I can tell you when I'm up there that intersection really does suck. And so I'm glad to see some attention being put towards it. It's very narrow. It has an outdated traffic signal. It's a very busy intersection. And if more businesses begin to move in there, if it gets redeveloped, obviously you'll need more capacity. So Vanessa Hagen Brewston, a city consultant, recently detailed the preliminary plans for the site in a notice of intent filed with the state and the Conservation Commission. According to the filing, the city plans to realign and reconfigure the four-way intersection. Work would include constructing a 13-foot wide lanes with share-the-road pavement markings for cyclists. The intersection will feature share-through lanes and right-turn lanes on each approach and separate areas for vehicles turning left, dubs, storage pockets, according to the project website. The traffic signal will also offer an exclusive pedestrian phase, stopping traffic to allow walkers to cross. The finished product will include a brick accent stripes, age-appropriate street lighting, and ornamental traffic signals, according to a project website. And I can tell you where this was done very recently, although I don't think it had the bike stuff. The intersection of 27 and 30 in Wayland underwent this, and it took them like a year to get that thing widened. And as of the end of April, I think it's still not 100% complete, mainly because they had to move a bunch of telephone poles. I don't know how much trouble they'll run into with this, but between that and the end of Central Street where it merges onto Edgell, those intersections, they need, they're a little under capacity. So I'm glad to see that there's some work and attention's being put towards this. City of Framingham and Sudbury Valley trustees receive state land grant for conservation land. This is on Framingham. This is a press release from the town, or city. City of Framingham and Sudbury Valley trustees receive land grant for conservation land. The City of Framingham and Sudbury Valley trustees, the SVT, are pleased to announce the city has received a land local acquisitions for natural diversity grant of $217,600 from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. This grant supports the conservation of wayside forest, over 50 acres of priority habitat of off Wayside Inn Road in Framingham that the city and the SVT are partnering to protect. The grant will enable the city of Framingham to purchase a perpetual conservation restriction on the land. Well, this is good. I think it's important to conserve where we can. And this was a quote here. "We are pleased with the state's confidence in Framingham to put these funds to work," said Art Robert, Framingham's Directors of Community and Economic Development. "Our perpetual conservation restriction will ensure this beautiful and intact space remains open and publicly accessible today and for future generations." So for more information, you can check that out, framingham.gov. If you just search for the conservation land, you'll probably find it. Chief Kenneth Ferguson announced on Wednesday, April 18th, that he will be retiring on Friday, April 27th, 2018. Chief Ferguson has served Framingham for 34 years, beginning his career as a police officer on January 7th, 1985. I was only eight years old, I think. "I've been blessed with a magnificent family and wonderful career," Chief Kenneth Ferguson says here. The department has been my extended family with all the ups and downs that families experience, many more good days than not. I am humbled at how we all put together in support of one another, especially when someone's in a crisis. Not only have I seen this, I've experienced it. Words can't describe the appreciation my family and I have for the support we receive when I was out on leave. It's truly contributed to my recovery, and for that, I'll be forever grateful. Please continue to support and look out for one another and be safe, said Chief Kenneth Ferguson. Here's a quote from the mayor. Framingham has been fortunate to have had the service of Chief Ferguson for the past 34 years, said Mayor Yvonne M. Spicer. Chief Ferguson has dedicated much of his life to the community. I've enjoyed working with him and wish him only the best in his retirement. There's going to be a gun buyback program on April 28th, and I'm not sure if this episode will air by then, but at least you'll know that it actually happened. The Framingham Police Department, Middlesex Sheriff's Office, and Mayor Yvonne Spicer, Framingham City Council, and our community partners are teaming up and introducing a citywide gift cards for guns initiative on Saturday, April 28th from 10 to 3 p.m. The public health and public safety event will provide residents with an opportunity to anonymously and safely dispose of unwanted firearms and reduce the potential for an accidental discharge or wrongdoing in a home. The gift cards for guns drop-off location will provide a safe, convenient way for individuals to drop off unwanted guns with no questions asked, no identification required. The Framingham Police Department and Middlesex Sheriff's Office will be managing the site, and the Massachusetts State Police Department will destroy the guns. The drop-off location is Framingham Department of Public Works at 100 Western Avenue, Framingham. Drop-off parking lot of Capital Improvements Building. As an incentive, participants will receive a gift card for each of the firearms they return. Values depending on the firearm type. You get a $250 gift card for an assault weapon, $150 for a revolver, handgun, semi-automatic shotgun, or rifle, and a $25 gift card for a BB gun or a pellet gun. You'll put your eye out with that thing. So we're going to take a break. If you have questions, if you want to know more about our show or watch past episodes, you're welcome to go to focusonframingham.tv. You can email me at mike@focusonframingham.tv. And you can also find us on Facebook. And I don't have a graphic for that, but we are Focus on Framingham on Facebook. And on Twitter, our Twitter handle is @FocusOnFram. So now we're going to take a break here, and when we come back, I'll have that footage, and then we'll wrap up the show.
Here's to the things that can keep us safe. And now, those that we carry with us everywhere will bring us wireless emergency alerts. With the unique sound and vibration, you'll be in the know, wherever you are.
Cunningham. Good evening.
Good evening.
I didn't think that there'd be so much commonality in what we were expressing here tonight, so I'm going to try to make this pretty quick. I've been doing public access programming for about 20 years, half my life, 15 of which here I've done in Framingham. And the technology's gone a long way. In that time, it used to just be VHS quality, and now everything is done on professional high-definition equipment for about the same price. Unfortunately, the cable companies haven't kept up with that, as you've heard others describe. I would like to just point out that I think RCN makes the best effort at providing this currently. They do provide an HD channel for the government channel, just RCN, but with no program guide. And they do provide a lot of the backhaul equipment for getting the signals from the 3 channels to all 3 of the other providers. I'd also like to point out that the educational channel just won 2 local Emmy Awards. So I thought that, that was pretty neat, but it sounds like a lot of people don't even have access to the channel or couldn't find it if they looked for it. I did a quick look today to try to find what other municipalities had both of these, and I found over 55 that had electronic program guide data for their local stations. I'm not going to read the whole list here. And another thing I discovered was that there's current statewide legislation to make this a statewide requirement for all cable operators. So I just wanted to read that real quick. This is the Senate Bill 1857, the current Senate, and it goes, all cable television operators shall provide public, educational, and governmental access channels and connections so that operators of said channels may deliver and subscribers may receive public, educational, and governmental access channels signals equivalent in quality to local broadcast signals carried on the system in the same format as the primary local broadcast signals are delivered. All cable television operators shall simultaneously carry each public, educational, and government access channel in both high definition format and a standard definition format in the same manner as local broadcast channels are provided. Further, all cable television operators shall provide educational and governmental access channels access to electronic programming guides so subscribers may record, select, and view public, educational, and governmental access channels in the same manner that local broadcast channels and information provided with the local broadcast channels can be recorded, selected, viewed, and used. So it would be my recommendation to kind of see the writing on the wall here, that if this is pending legislation, that this language really should be included in the next cable contracts for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're back. This is the wrapping up the end of my 4th show. And these first 4 shows have been of dubious quality. But it's kind of a test to see if I can actually do it. And so hopefully you'll see a show number 5 from me in the near future. Hopefully my set will be a little bit cleaner and I'll have a better microphone. But I do appreciate any feedback that you have or any other ideas that you might have for my show. I'm open to any type of suggestion. Again, you can email me at mike@focusonframingham.tv. So that concludes the show. So until next week, this has been Focus on Framingham with Mike Cunningham.